Well. Leave it up to the Castlevania guy on YouTube to do a video on something that really not many people have talked about. And that is the Castlevania Black and Castlevania Red CD box sets. Okay, these came out late last year and they fetch for about 120 each. Okay, I got them both as presents. One from my mom and one from my wife. So kind of had to space these out. I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to get red because I opted for black first. So what is on these and what is the benefit to picking these up versus picking up the Perfect collection that came out not too long ago, maybe about 9 years ago or so, something like that? Or just trying to collect the old soundtracks, like the original soundtracks. Well, the original soundtracks are really hard to get legit copies of. It is proving more and more difficult to get them. So this is a nice budget-friendly way to get almost every single Castlevania soundtrack that you could possibly want. Yeah, that's right. 13 discs in each box set. The black box set is mostly covering the older stuff, along with some like odds and ends, some more like spin-off type titles. And the red box is covering the more, I guess you could say, the Igarashi, the Koji Igarashi era of Castlevania for the most part. So, let's dive into these, talk a little bit about the specifics, what comes with what, and also which one is worth picking up if you can only afford one, or if you're going to get both, what's the best way to get both of these? Let's talk about it.
Alright, so this is the Castlevania Red and Black box sets that I'm going to be talking about today. Now, the black I've had for a couple months, so they've already been unboxed and ripped and everything. The reds I have not. So just to kind of give you a little bit of information on what's on each, the black, starting with the first one. 13 discs, starting with the original Castlevania on Famicom Disk System soundtrack, the Akumajou Dracula, which is Castlevania on the MSX2, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, both Famicom Disk System and NES versions, Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse on Famicom, which has the VRC6 sound expansion, which gives it higher quality, well, objectively higher quality audio, Castlevania The Adventure, Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge, and Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, which is the NES version of Castlevania 3, or Akumajou Densetsu as it's called in the East. Super Castlevania 4, Kid Dracula and the Game Boy Kid Dracula, which is a sequel, I believe. Castlevania Legends, which is nice to see here. Castlevania Rondo of Blood, the PC Engine game. Castlevania Dracula X on Super Famicom, which is definitely, or Super Nintendo, which is definitely a rarity. You may also know of it as Vampire's Kiss if you live in PAL territories. Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles, which is the PSP version of Rondo. Castlevania 64, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, which I believe this is the first print that it's ever received physically as far as the soundtrack goes. I don't believe it's been released via CD otherwise, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Castlevania X68000, which is just Akumajou Dracula X68000, the Sharp X68000 of Castlevania. That, of course, has all three of the original MIDI variants, depending on which sound style you went for. Castlevania Chronicles, which is the re-released, rearranged version of that game. Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, Castlevania Judgment on the Wii, Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth, which was a WiiWare exclusive, and Castlevania the Arcade. The red has Castlevania Bloodlines, also known as Vampire Killer in Japanese territories. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, both the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn version, and the PSP version. Why that version, I don't know. I'm not aware of that release having like an additional version, but maybe it does. I don't know. I don't know if I've actually ever played it. I've only played Rondo's reimagining on that Dracula X collection. Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, Castlevania Lament of Innocence, also known as Castlevania in Japan. Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, the Nintendo DS game, along with Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia. Curse of Darkness is also on there for PS2, and Harmony of Despair, the Xbox 360 version. As you're seeing me flip through these books, these are the booklets. They're all in Japanese. If you want the English titles for the tracks, you can get them on PlayAsia's website. That's where I got them. So if you're going to be ripping these, they do not automatically convert to English. So you need to hand do it. I put the flowers there just to be fun. I thought it was kind of like a gothic style here, as you can tell. I wanted to talk a little bit about the soundtrack versions. Here you see the Super Castlevania 4 soundtrack. I'm showing you a picture of it, which I'll talk about in just a sec. And here's just a couple of the soundtracks that I already own. This is just a sampler of Order of Ecclesia, which again I'll get into in just a minute. Here's the Symphony of the Night soundtrack, and some of these are bootlegs, some of them are not. It's weird. The Castlevania bootleg market is very crazy. Tons and tons of bootlegs out there. So as far as the quality goes on these compared to these original releases that I'm showing you here, I gotta say, they're pretty much near identical to these CD releases. The only difference that I would say here is that the Super Castlevania 4 soundtrack has reverb on it, as does the original Famicom Disk System version of Castlevania, which is unfortunate. This disc that you're seeing before you right here, they basically took the versions of those songs off that disc and put them on CD, basically. Very much a copy-paste job, which is a bit lazy. But I gotta say, having come from, in several situations, rips, like unofficial rips of certain game soundtracks, I gotta say, I'm very happy with the quality on some of these. Specifically, the Legacy of Darkness soundtrack, and also Castlevania 64. The only versions I ever owned of those were unofficial. Even the CD that I have, the official, or the CD that I have for Castlevania 64, I believe is a bootleg, and it just doesn't sound as good. I think they really jacked up the quality on those 64 soundtracks. Now, the big thing is the Game Boy Advance soundtracks. A lot of people complain about specifically Harmony of Dissonance as far as the redone music. I gotta be honest, I haven't been able to tell a difference between the higher quality Castlevania Advanced versions that I've ripped and converted to MP3 that I have personally. I don't know. I can't really tell the difference between them in terms of sound quality as compared to the original soundtracks. I do think that the quality is a little higher on the actual CD re-releases than the in-game music. Like if you were to rip the music from Castlevania Circle of the Moon or Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, etc. So those Game Boy Advance versions are gonna naturally sound, like they came from the Game Boy Advance, but the CD quality, personally, I think is better in terms of the original Game Boy Advance re-releases. So these soundtracks are better in that circumstance. I would say it's really tough to say as far as the quote-unquote higher quality sounds of the Harmony of Dissonance soundtracks on Castlevania Advance collection that was recently released. I got a rip of that soundtrack, and man, it's tough. It's tough to decide whether or not they sound better. But man, I cannot stand the reverb on the Super Castlevania 4 soundtrack. I am keeping the unofficial rip that I have for Super Castlevania 4 on my phone. I rip all these soundtracks and put them on my phone, and specifically the Super Castlevania 4 I'm not ripping and putting on my phone. I'm just going, I just have the unofficial rip from the game's OS, the game's actual music for the sound files from the Super NES game. So yeah, they jacked the reverb way up on that version. Same thing with the NES Famicom game for Castlevania. It's just they add this weird sound to it. It sounds echoey, reverby, just ugh. I'm not a fan of it. Castlevania 2, the NES version, sounds great. I gotta say, they really knocked it out of the park, and even Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse as well, same thing. They all sound really good. Really, the big thing here, the money maker, is getting Order of Ecclesia on disc, because we only got, as you saw in the video earlier, we only got a sampler of the soundtrack for that game, at least here in North America. So Japan got, I believe, Order of Ecclesia, like an official soundtrack that may or may not have been released with the game itself. I believe it was. I think it was either a pre-order bonus or like an additional version that you could buy that came with the official soundtrack. So if you were to buy that alone, that Order of Ecclesia soundtrack, you're looking at hundreds of dollars. Now, if you pre-ordered both of these box sets, then you would get a bonus disc called MIDI Power Pro 6, which has arrangements, like MIDI arrangements of Symphony of the Night tracks. Thanks to the 8th Sign, who is a Discord member as well as patron of the channel, for hooking me up with that CD digitally. So he sent me the ripped files. So big shout out to him for that. That was super nice of him. I gotta say, when you compare these two box sets with the also released fairly recently, within the past 10 or so years, the Castlevania Dracula Best Music Collection box, that you could buy right now on PlayAsia for $199 according to this. They apparently have copies, most likely because the copies ended up in their warehouse somehow. Most likely because people have been selling this box set like crazy on eBay to try to get these other two box sets. I think while stylistically the Best Music Collections box may look a little nicer in terms of the design, I think that this set is better. These two box sets, these separate box sets, are better. You miss out on one of the Pachinko soundtracks, getting this black and red box, these box sets. So you don't have that, but you do have Legacy of Darkness, and I believe also Rebirth, Castlevania Rebirth, which you get. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's like, do you want to lose this but lose that, or gain that? Personally, I think the red and the black are the way to go. If I was to get the box set, if I had to choose, it's worth it, just the extra 20 or so bucks alone, just to get the Rebirth box set, as well as, or the Rebirth soundtrack, as well as Legacy of Darkness. So and higher quality versions of those two. So you also miss out on a DVD too, but you can hunt down the video. It's just basically an interview with Michiru Yamane that you can easily find on the web. It's all over the place. Somebody ripped it and put it on YouTube. So, there's always that if you prefer. One final thing, the Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance album is on here, and it's arguably the same as the recent supposed higher quality audio on the Harmony of Dissonance Castlevania Advanced Collection. I have a rip of that, as well as a rip of this CD, and I'll go ahead and play you some examples just so you can kind of hear the differences between the two, and you can pick which one you think is better.
So I hope you enjoyed my deep dive into the Castlevania Black and Castlevania Red box sets. These are really, really cool. Overall, I'm very happy with getting these. I owned a good chunk of these, either via bootlegs or via just, you know, sampler CDs or official soundtracks. But it's nice to get all of these officially released. Now, of course, is there a point to this? You know, probably not. I know my wife certainly thinks that this was a dumb purchase because she kind of believes that CDs are a dead medium. But if you want the highest quality, minus FLAC, the highest quality audio for your Castlevania soundtrack listening experience, I think this is the way to go. This or that best of collection that released not too long ago. In fact, it's funny, those were pretty expensive. Those were really hard to come by for a decent price. And because these got released, the prices are starting to come down on those, and you're starting to see them sold again on websites like PlayAsia, which is crazy because they've been out of print for so long. But I think what's been happening is people have been selling them through like eBay just to unload because they're upgrading to these. And I gotta say, I think this is an upgrade, personally. Is it more space? Yeah, it's not one box set, it's 2 box sets. But I think this is just, it feels more complete than that other box set. So let me know what you guys think. Did you purchase these? What are your thoughts on them? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, tune in next time for more Castlevania goodness here on the channel. Thanks so much for watching.